Before we begin, we're going to play with you just a little bit. We want to talk about expectation. So we were pointing at you, and you kept looking behind you because you just couldn't accept that we were pointing at you. And we're eager to talk with you about whatever it is you want to talk about, but that's the thing we really want to talk about. is that harnessing of expectation that things are going the way I want them to go. Yes. What do you want to talk about?
About expectations. I hear in one of your CDs that you say that anything that we want is down the stream. And anything that we don't want is up the stream.
In other words, ease or angst.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you know why? Because the things you want, the things that you're asking for, the source within you is already standing there in the vibration of it. So the larger part of you is already that. So the rest of you is being called to that, which means if you just let go of whatever it is that's holding you back, you'll go right there.
So something is down the stream when we don't offer resistance.
Well, it's all down there, but here's the way to look at it. The stream is calling you, and it is winning. The question is, are you going easily or the hard way?
Mm-hmm.
Because who you are is summoning you. In other words, if you hadn't asked for more and the larger part of you had not become more, then there would be then any resistance couldn't exist. There could be no opposite vibration.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you have not become it, then not being it is not a problem.
So expecting to become who I feel I am seems to be a path of least resistance. I expect to be who I think I am, or I feel I am, or who I am becoming. And as you pointed before, it looks like always that is present, but I don't think that is it's this moment, or that is arriving. So sounds like a little bit of what you point, like deserving, or
well, it could be labeled that, but labeling it only makes it last longer. So let's look at it in another way. So it's nice to have an experience that is so current that we can relate to. So here's a room full of people, and many people wanting to be called on, and vibrationally speaking, there is an unfolding here that's very beneficial, and so you light it up for us. In other words, we were aware of the content of that which is you. And by that we mean we could feel the power of your desire and its relationship to your to it. In other words, what you want and what you believe, we could feel what that was about. And we know with everything that we are that because of the strength of your desire and your proximity to the vortex, we know that we can have a conversation that will bring you home. In other words, we know that you're strong enough with your desire and close enough with your belief that with just a little conversation that you can really, really get this. So we reach for you, and even though you really wanted to be here and you really have an active question within you, your lack of expectation that you were going to be called on was so strong, you kept looking behind you. And even though we were saying turn around, you still didn't realize that you were the one. You were the one looking behind you, but you still didn't realize that you were the one, which means your expectation of not being called on was a pretty strong expectation, even though your desire was very, very strong. So it's the perfect example of the very subject that you wanted to talk about, because you want to talk about the existence of this stream. You acknowledge the existence of this stream. You even know that there's downstream and there's upstream. You acknowledge the existence of the stream, but even in your awareness of the existence of the stream, you have resistance going on that is keeping you from flowing easily. So, how does someone change their expectation? You change your expectation by practicing the thought that feels a little better. So, we expect that you will have a very good opportunity to change an expectation just by reflecting back on this moment in time. Because here you were, many people, hundreds of people with their hands up. And yet you were chosen to come forward, which means your desire mattered for something. So now you can say, well, I have proven to myself that when my desire is strong enough, even when I don't totally expect it, when my desire is strong enough, there's enough pulling power in that. And even though it was a little slow going, in other words, it didn't come easily, there were 12 other people standing up at the same time. Abraham really harassed me. Abraham actually put their hands on Esther's hips and said, don't make me come after you. In other words, there was a lot. It wasn't the easiest thing that unfolded, but it worked out for me. It always will work out for me. And the degree of difficulty is the only issue that I need to think about. It's not will it happen or can it happen or if it will happen, because that's all for sure. It will happen. The question is when. And the when has to do with how much resistance I've got going on and how willing I am to sort of release the resistance. So we can tell you, there is this thing, and you're not the only one who does it or who has it, that gets in the way of what you are wanting. And that is, you've got what is itis. The only thing that keeps you from going to where you want to be is your incessant awareness of where you are. That's all that it is. Because think about it. We love that you reflected back to us this analogy of the stream. This vortex is summoning in a very powerful way, and it's creating a current that is like a downstream current. It's very, very powerful. And if it were not for resistant beliefs that are pretty well entrenched, the stream would take you easily. So can you feel that the operative word, the thing that you can do something about? You don't need to do something about the stream. It flows. You've already done your part in the stream. That's why it's calling you in such a strong way. Your work, your singular work, is to release resistance. To release resistance. That's your singular work. Well, how does somebody go about releasing resistance? Well, we would say, don't think that negative thought. Well, that's screwy, isn't it? Don't think the thought I'm thinking. How can I stop thinking the thought that I'm thinking? And we say, well, you do have a good point. The thought you're thinking is active and it's bringing other thoughts like it. So how does someone effectively begin to offer a vibration that allows more of what you want instead of these chronic vibrations that disallow? And the biggest piece of it, the biggest piece of it is, if you could accept that what is does not need to hold such a large part of your attention. What is feels really current, but it isn't. You say, well, I just looked online and I see what my bank account is. I see what it is, seems pretty current. And we say, anything that's manifested really is old news, because the new vibration equals who you really are. But before that makes sense to you, we've got to convince you that you're a vibrational being, not a physical being with a bank account. And that's a pretty hard sell. You see yourself sitting on clumps, on chairs as clumps. Here's my clump, there's another clump, there's another clump, there's another clump. In other words, I seem pretty tangible. What is seems pretty real. And we say, you are a vibrational being. And if you will accept that you are vibration and that the larger part of you is who you are. So here's how it works. So you were source energy, and a part of you came into this body, and you're exploring the variety. And you know what you don't want, and you know what you do want. And when you know what you do want, whether you speak it or not, a rocket of desire radiates forward, and is absorbed into that vortex. Your inner being literally becomes the vibrational equivalent of the new request. That one and 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 that one. So this source energy part of you is expanding and expanding. Well, that only matters to you because you have a vibrational relationship to that expansion. If you expand and you don't go, you don't feel good. If you expand and you do go, you feel sensational. If you expand and you expect things to go well for you, you go. If you expand and you don't expect things to go well for you, you've got resistance going on. So you don't have to figure this all out. You just need to take away from this simple understanding. If you don't feel positive emotion, you're offering resistance. If you do feel positive emotion, you're offering no resistance. And resistance is the operative word. How much resistance am I offering? So we've been spewing endless processes to assist you in releasing thoughts that don't feel so good and finding those that feel better. We've talked endlessly. Many of you in this room could express the processes back to us as well as we can express them to you. We just want you to understand that if you accept the reality of this vortex, and you accept that you are a vibrational being, and you accept that the larger part of you has real time, current time, become that which you are asking for, and you can turn your undivided attention to that vibrational part of you rather than to the manifested part of you, that there will be no resistance. It's looking at the manifestation that introduces the majority of the resistance. I want more money. Well, if you're thinking about the money and you're thinking about the freedom and you're thinking about what you will do with it and you are enjoying the idea of it, there's no resistance within you. But if you want more money and you're counting how much money you don't have, you're offering resistance to the money that is there for you. The money that will materialize if you will cease the beating of the drum, the anti-money drum, the anti-drum, you see. So, expectation simply means that you've let the vortex train you into a frequency. We've been having a lot of fun with these, we'll do this quickly. We've been having a lot of fun with these affirmation cards. A lot of people understand affirmations because if you have an expectation, an affirmation can secure an expectation. In other words, if you are in the vortex and really feeling wonderful, and from that feeling of elation, from that feeling of stability and security, you're reading about money and the law of attraction. I will praise success wherever I see it. Ooh, that's a good feeling thought. I don't need to have money to attract money. That's a good feeling thought. That money can flow to me from where I am. I'm the creator of my own life experience. I love knowing that. I want to harmonize with my desire. That's the sweetest thing in the whole universe, to harmonize with my desire. Nothing's more important than I feel good. I know. I love feeling good. I just love feeling good. When you're in the vortex and you are affirming, you're practicing the vibration. You're holding yourself there longer, and your expectation is becoming stronger, you see. But if you're not in the vortex, if something's gone wrong, if you're facing reality, if you are embarrassed or worried or afraid of something and worried about finances, and someone says, oh, here, these are brilliant. Abraham wrote these. These are the most wonderful cards that I've ever seen in my entire life. They are magnificent. And you're standing in that place of worry and concern, and you say, I can always tell a different financial abundance story. Oh, God. I want to harmonize with my desire. Well, yeah, I sure would like that. Nothing is more important than I feel good. This sucks. This just sucks. In other words, when you attempt to improve your vibration from a vantage point when you're not feeling it, often there's a backlash that does not serve you. And so the most effective way that we know to increase expectation is to focus upon something that worked and just milk it for all it's worth. And that's why we put you in this chair. In other words, we want you all day, every day to acknowledge that I had a vibration going on that was significant enough that I was selected by infinite intelligence to have a conversation about something that was infinitely important to me. How meaningful is that? My point of attraction is right on target. I am tuned in, tapped in, turned on. In other words, because as you acknowledge something that worked and you milk the feeling of it, you practice the vibration of it, and then all around you, the universe